What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, let me first say shout out to everybody that supports me on the Patreon. All right, I will be uploading this weekend on the Patreon. And if anybody else wants to support Too Raw for TV on the Patreon, you can do so for the very low price of only $2 per month. And on the Patreon, of course, I'm able to talk about subjects I can't talk about on YouTube. And if you wish to support Too Raw for TV, you can do so via the PayPal or the Cash App. All right, now I gotta get this off my chest before I go a little further with this. I had to block somebody yesterday, man. I had to block him, and I love a good debate. Okay, um, I don't mind people disagreeing with me, but when it gets to the point where you're threatening to unsub from me because you can't accept my opinion, then we have a problem. Especially when you're the person who asked me to start doing these videos in the first place. So you wanted my opinion on my top 10. You reminded me of it. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do like a video for each person. Then you get mad. I said, I know Kobe's going to be a controversial position. I knew he was going to be a controversial pick because of his fan base. But when you're threatening to unsub from me because I got my number 8 and not number 3 or 4, I mean, how asinine is that? Okay, I'm at a loss, man. God damn. But anyway, at number 7, and this is another thing too. When you have people who are fans of a certain player, once they see where you pick them at, every pick that's before them, their argument's not going to be about this player. It's going to be why Kobe is better than Hakeem. Why Kobe should be ahead of that player. Kobe should be ahead of this guy. Kobe should be ahead of that guy. This video is no longer about Kobe Bryant. You can put that on the other video with Kobe, but this video is about Hakeem Olajuwon, not Kobe Bryant. I already see that coming. But anyway, in my opinion, number 7 is Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon. Now, there are some people who would have Hakeem even higher than this. As a matter of fact, there are some people, red pill, who believe that Hakeem Olajuwon is the greatest center of all time. And I do believe that he has a tremendous case to be greatest center of all time if you're looking at a skills factor, the things that he could do. I think he is the most skilled big man, that we've ever seen in the history of the NBA. I mean, he's one of the first centers. I mean, when you watch him, he sometimes played like a guard. You know what I'm saying? He could do certain things with the ball that you didn't see centers being able to do. And he had range that sometimes went out to the 3-point line in an era where centers weren't shooting threes. Not that he shot a lot of them, he didn't. I would be shocked if he's made more than 10 or 15 threes in his career. But the fact that he had range out to that level was kind of unique. But he definitely had consistent range out to 20 feet. But he had to work on his game. And also, he came to basketball relatively late. I think before he was a basketball player, or he started playing basketball, I believe he was a volleyball player, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't think he started really playing basketball until he was, 15, 16 years old. So he came late to the game of basketball. But he developed really quickly due to his extreme, uh, you know, uh, physical gifts and athleticism. Of course, before he came to the NBA in 1984, he played for the University of Houston, where he played alongside future Hall of Famer, fellow future Hall of Famer, and fellow teammate later on. Screwed it all up, didn't I? Clyde the Glide Drexler. Now, as far as his resume is concerned, talking about Hakeem Olajuwon, he's a two-time NBA champion, 1994 and 1995, two-time NBA Finals MVP, 94 and 95, the league's most valuable player back in the 93-94 season, 12-time NBA All-Star, six-time All-NBA First Team, three-time All-NBA Second Team, and three-time All-NBA Third Team, two-time NBA Defensive Player of the Year, five-time NBA All-Defensive First Team, four-time All-NBA All-Defensive Second Team. He was on the NBA All-Rookie First Team 84-85, two-time NBA Rebounding Leader, three times NBA Blocks Leader. His number 34, of course, has been retired by the Houston Rockets. NBA's 50th anniversary all-time team. I won't talk about the college stuff because it's not really pertinent to the NBA. For his career, he averaged 21.8 points, 11.1 rebounds, and 3.1 blocks per game. His 3,830 career blocks are officially the all-time record. Though I have said before, and I know me and Red Pill, we've had some debates about this. I believe that if you were to include blocks of other players officially, if you were to include the blocks of guys like Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, who, the league didn't start counting blocks until after Wilt retired, the year after it, actually. But if you were to count the blocks of guys like Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Nate Thurman for most of his career, and Kareem for all of his career, because I think the first four seasons of his career they didn't count blocks. I think if you were to count their careers, I think Wilt would probably be number one. I think Bill Russell would probably be number two. I think number three would probably be Nate Thurman, and number four probably would be Kareem, a little bit over Hakeem. But since they aren't counted officially, Hakeem is the all-time blocks leader. Just like I think also if they counted steals, all the way back to 1946, they actually did count steals. I think Jerry West would be really high on that list. I think Jerry West would probably be second or third all time in steals if they counted steals back in his era. That's another argument. Hakeem Olajuwon was a great scorer, great post scorer. Probably he and Kevin McHale are the greatest post scorers in the history of the NBA. He was a great rebounder. Talking about Hakeem Olajuwon. Like I said, he led the league in rebounding twice in the early 1990s. There was a period of time. I think the head coach was it Don Chaney? I think it was Don Chaney, where inexplicably the Rockets were playing. He got in his head that in order for the Rockets to have success, that they would have to play outside in. It would start with the guards, and then Hakeem Olajuwon would be secondary in the offense, which made absolutely no fucking sense. Absolutely no fucking sense whatsoever. And I think this is the period of time where the Rockets were missing the playoffs. And it came to a point where Hakeem Olajuwon, in his prime at this particular time, in his late 20s, was averaging like 20, 21 points per game. And it got to a point where he was threatening to he wanted to be traded. Now, ultimately, Don Chaney was fired. I think it was Chaney. Yeah, I think it was Don Chaney. He was fired. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong about this. In came Rudy Tomjanovich, and they played the way they should have played, which is more inside out. Hakeem Olajuwon went from averaging like 20, 21 points per game to more like 26, 27 points per game, close to 28 points per game. And then the Rockets became the Houston Rockets of the mid-1990s, where ultimately they went on to win back-to-back NBA titles, including that improbable run during the 94-95 season when they were the sixth seed. And, of course, they're still the lowest seed ever to win an NBA championship. I think they beat like 4 teams that won at least 50 games during the playoffs. I think it was 4. I think it was the Utah Jazz, the Phoenix Suns, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Orlando Magic. And Hakeem Olajuwon had a very long and productive career. And I think his career ended in 2002 after 18 seasons with the Toronto Raptors. I think it was a lung condition that he developed toward the last couple of years of his career, where he had it affected his endurance. That plus diminished skills led to Hakeem Olajuwon retiring from the game. I think he was about 39 years old at the time. But Hakeem Olajuwon in his prime was magnificent. There's people that make the argument that if Michael Jordan never retired, would the Rockets have still won those 2 championships? That's a very debatable, uh, you know, topic. Um, During that period of time, the Chicago Bulls struggled against the Houston Rockets, and Michael Jordan, I believe, at one point in time, even mentioned that had the Bulls faced the Rockets in the finals, that would have been almost a nightmare scenario because they would have probably had no answer for Hakeem Olajuwon. And but I have faith in the fact that as a Bulls fan, they would have figured something out. Probably what they would have done is let Olajuwon be Olajuwon and try their best to shut down and contain everybody else. So you might have had games where Olajuwon went off for 40, 45 points, but if everybody else is struggling, then pretty much that's probably what they would have tried to done or tried to do, in my opinion. Um, but the Bulls struggled in the regular season against them. They had a losing record, but the regular season doesn't always translate to postseason. During 1997-98 season, Chicago Bulls went 0-2 against the Utah Jazz. We saw what happened in the NBA Finals. In the 1988-89 season, the Chicago Bulls went 0-6 during the regular season against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we saw what happened that year in the playoffs with the shot. Nobody picked Chicago Bulls to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, who was seen at the time as a team of the 1990s, the future. Um, so we never know what would happen. I definitely don't think in '95 the Bulls would have beaten the Rockets without any type of inside uh, presence as far as containment. We didn't have Horace Grant anymore, and we didn't have Dennis Rodman yet. So I don't really think we'd beaten them that year. That's what I want to say about this guy. He was a defensive monster. Hakeem Olajuwon, absolute defensive fucking beast. You know what I'm saying? Will shut your opponent down. He's the only guy I really saw in a playoff series as far as center position that truly outplayed Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, there's other guys that, that have played well against Shaq in series, but he's the only one I remember seeing that really, truly through the eye test, and the number's short as well. You like, wow, he really schooled Shaq. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Shaq had some games where he scored some points, but for the most part in that finals, what I remember, Shaq got a lot of like late buckets. You know, the game is kind of over. Let's give an alley oop to Shaq. Boom, alley oop to Shaq. I've seen him score like 4, 5, 6 points that way. But for the most part, when Olajuwon hit that 3-pointer to cap off the series, uh, it was a breathtaking experience and a breathtaking run they had. And that truly cemented Hakeem Olajuwon, in my opinion, as a top 10 all-time player. Now, of course, they tried to have a run with Charles Barkley, but by that time, each member of the party was getting older, and they weren't quite the same players they were. Put it like this: had that run occurred had they been acquired just 2 or 3 years earlier, like 93, 94, I think the Rockets would have won the championship. But I think at that time they were just enough out of their primes where they were too inconsistent. If I remember correctly, during the 96-97 season, the Houston Rockets started the season 21-2. and they were playing magnificent basketball. And as a Chicago Bulls fan, I was scared. But then age and injury started affecting their Rockets team, and I was like, nah, they're not going to do it. They're too beat up. And you can start to see a slight diminishment in Hakeem Olajuwon's overall play. But trying to think, it's pretty much it as far as Hakeem Olajuwon is concerned. Hakeem Olajuwon, yeah. Hakeem Olajuwon won Olympic gold in Atlanta in 1996, where his teammate was Shaquille O'Neal. And I do think that 1996 team could have beaten the 1992 Dream Team. I don't think Shaq is uh, ludicrous in that assertion. I do think they could have beaten the 92 Dream Team. Anytime you have a team with both Shaquille O'Neal and Hakeem Olajuwon, of course it's possible. Because I think combined, they are better than Patrick Ewing and David Robinson. And by the way, Bleacher Report is absolutely out their fucking minds having David Robinson ahead of Hakeem Olajuwon. I love David Robinson, man, but at best, David Robinson's a top 20 all-time player. At best. Okay? The David Robinson before that injury in 96, okay? The David Robinson before that injury was a magnificent player that had top 10 potential. All right? He did go on to win 3 championships, but this goes to show you how a lot of these young heads are only looking at rings and three-point shooting. Because if you watch these two guys play, I mean, remember how he just absolutely schooled Dave Robinson in that series. That series, that 1995 playoff series, really answered the question who was better between the two. Because Olajuwon was absolutely pissed that Dave Robinson won an MVP trophy, a regular season award over him. And he showed who was the better player. And Hakeem Olajuwon is magnificent. And another thing about Hakeem Olajuwon is that during the playoffs, he raised his level of play. His scoring went way up. I believe his rebounding was up. He stayed efficient, and he was, like I said, magnificent. And another thing I want to say too in closing, I debated this point with one of my subs. I do think the center position is starting to become phased out when it comes to all-time rankings. And I think some of it's the fact that most people are under 6 foot in height, or at least under 6'2". So they relate more to the perimeter guys. They relate more to being the shorter guys on the court, and they relate more to perimeter orientated skills. They can't relate to being a big man. They can't relate to being uh, the person doing the dirty work. They want to look pretty. They want to look aesthetically pleasing. And people are drawn toward that. I did say that the big man, the center positions, like the field niggas of the NBA. I do feel like that. And some people say, well, the center can't be effective unless the guards give them the ball. That's true. But the guards can't do anything unless the big man is cleaning up the defensive glass too, right? Or getting the offensive rebound to give you guys another possession. So the big man is yin and yang, is give and take. You know what I'm saying? And I do feel like the center position is a thankless position now. It's almost like the the offensive line in football. The quarterback gets all the glory, but without the offensive line, the quarterback can't really shine. So yeah, I do think the center position is starting to be phased out a little bit. People are disrespecting Shaquille O'Neal. People don't talk about Hakeem Olajuwon anymore. I've never seen Wilt Chamberlain in a lower position than he is now. When I was growing up, Wilt Chamberlain was a god. Wilt Chamberlain was the only guy I really saw in the debate between. When I was growing up, y'all want to talk about a debate? The debate was between Wilt and Mike. It wasn't between anybody else. It was between Wilt and Mike. Wilt is no longer in the conversation because people don't respect the center position. And people think that, well, Wilt was big. He should have won. Okay, Wilt was big. He should have averaged 50. Wilt was big. He should have grabbed 20 rebounds. Wilt was big. He should have did this. They want to see he only won 2 titles. Well, how did he only win 2 championships? He's so big. You know what I'm saying? So I'm here to protect the center position. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? That's just how I feel about it. And he might disagree, but, it is what it is. But tell me what you guys think.